Hello and welcome everyone to our next episode of HelpandTrade podcast, where we give space to entrepreneurs and their startups. My today's guest is Sally. Sally is a successful entrepreneur with over 40 years of experience in IT and entrepreneurship itself as well. And Sally, if you don't mind, the stage is yours. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sally Solaymantash. I am a Persian English American currently living in Basel. I'm very passionate about technology and equality. And I'm fortunate enough to be realizing my vision of SAM, a Smart Approach methodology, and doing some public speaking.
Yes, that's how we actually met. We met in Toastmasters in Basel, which is an association which helps you with public speaking.
Yes, I absolutely loved it. They're a great support team, and I've learned a lot because I used to turn into jelly when I just stood in front of people to speak. I still turn into jelly, but the jelly is a bit more set than it was before, not just much shaking. Very good support, and I highly recommend for people to attend that. It's good for building your confidence and teaches you how to speak.
I love it. I'm really happy that I'm there. And I hope you're going to be my mentor, actually.
Thank you. I'll do my best.
Let's first talk about your entrepreneurial path before we actually go to your current endeavors, if you don't mind.
Sure.
From the talks that we heard before, I know you actually have entrepreneurship in your blood ever since you were very young. If you wouldn't mind sharing that experience. I'm
a little bit older than average entrepreneurs on the market right now. And when I started, we didn't use the word entrepreneur. I was like the weird kid that wasn't like everybody else. But knowing what I know now and looking back into things that I did as a kid, I always like to refine ideas and come up with creative, distinct ideas. So I was telling you, one of my first memories was we decided we wanted to make our own money, to buy crayons and paper and do some drawing one summer. A few kids, we got together, we created a theater from a children's story, and we bullied family and friends and parents to buy tickets to watch our theater. And then we took the money to do that. Another time for when I was a brownie at school, we had to collect money. We did initiatives, bake cookies or sold something. And my idea was sparked when I went shopping with my mom and I saw corn that was colored in very vivid, bright colors. So I made popcorns and I sold them at extortionately high prices because they did not look like normal popcorn. They were colorful. This is going back 50 years ago or something. And I made like 20 pounds profit from, the week that we had to do this. And there was such a high demand at school, I couldn't keep up with it. This is something I've always been an idea generator. I didn't always want to follow through with the idea, but I'm happy to hand it over to somebody else. But I just love the idea of coming up with new, different ways of doing things.
Moving fast forward, you went to study IT.
Yeah, when I was 9 years old, I was asked at school what I wanted to be when I grew up. It's a long story, going through all my options and not being happy with any of them. I one time heard my dad and his friend talking about this new science called computers. And this is in early 70s, very early 70s. This was amazing because you had to be very analytical, and at the same time you had to be very creative in applying this new science, and everything was to be explored. And that was it. I was sold, and this is exactly what I wanted to do. Never having seen a computer or really knowing what a computer was, I passionately pursued that and told everybody I wanted to be a computer scientist when I grew up. And I was 16 before I had an option to actually study computing. And and I have been hooked ever since.
You started also work in the computer science to begin with, right?
I got my degree in computer science. I started working in the software industry. I have been fortunate. I've played every role in the life of a software. And then I'm a sort of person, I get bored when I know all that I'm interested to know. So once I know something, I need to move on. So I played different roles, learning each one, which was great because it gave me understanding of the entire software lifecycle and why we do certain things and how it can impact the other steps. And then once I did all that, and then I still was hungry for more, I decided to start changing industries. So I worked in different industries. That way I could learn about my client's business while I practiced what I already knew and figure out different ways of helping them by applying my knowledge. And along the way, I was fortunate enough to learn a lot and grow.
Well, you certainly grew because you also created your own company.
Yeah, this started 1989 when I was really disappointed as an employee. I felt like I was being promised a lot when they were hiring me. At the time, technology was very in high demand. It was the peak of the growth of technology, and they promised you the world. And then when you started work, they said, well, that was the marketing pitch, and now is the real life, and now you do this. And I went through a few experience of being disappointed. And I decided, and again, that's my entrepreneurship coming up that I didn't know I had. I decided I wanted to be in charge of my own destiny. And I wanted to be in a position to choose what I wanted to do and choose what I didn't want to do and walk away from. And I started my first company, 1989, Solaymantash Associates Limited, SAL for short, in UK. And I started doing freelance computer consulting. And I worked across Europe, few major companies. I was very fortunate. My travels took me to US. I couldn't use my company there. So after getting my green card in US, I established the same company in US. And then I continued with my freelance under the same name. I was, touch wood, very lucky and very successful throughout my career until 2015, when I decided to walk away from it.
You went to study again.
Yeah, 2015, I don't know, you want to call it midlife crisis or awakening or whatever. But after having spent my entire life being very passionate and focused on software technology, I came to a realization as an industry, we were not learning. We kept making the same mistakes at the beginning of every project. We were all excited. We got to do this different. This is going to be, the best thing ever. And then as the project went on, the pressures and the reality set in, and we started cutting corners and making compromises. And at the end, everybody was exhausted and nobody was really pleased with what we produced, just glad to be over. And I didn't want to do that. I felt like a rat in a wheel, running round and round and round, and I wanted to get off the rat race. And I walked away from my lifetime passion, not knowing what I wanted to do. And just by pure coincidence, I stumbled across my old university doing a brand new course called Enterprise and Business Creation. It was an MSc degree. The moment I saw it, it's like, this is what I want to do. And I picked up the phone and I called them and it says, when is the deadline? I want to register. And said, well, deadline is tomorrow. And it was a Thursday and tomorrow is a Friday. I said, but I'm your alumni and you have to accept me because I want to do this course. And they said, okay, we'll send you the forms. Just send them as quickly as you can. So Monday I had the interview and Tuesday I had my offer. And 2 weeks later, I was doing the course because the course had started and I loved it. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey under the new title of entrepreneurship. Amazing.
Finally got your stamp. Now
I finally got my stamp.
Amazing. You immediately after actually started the company, which was stepintotech.org.
Yes, that was a collaboration. When I was a student at university, I attended a hackathon there. And over there, these two kids and, the drive to be, and they pitched. They actually got selected as one of the pitches to be developed. I was privileged enough to be part of their team, and we created this tool called Socks Suck. They didn't want to get socks for Christmas. They wanted to give a shopping list of Christmas present wish list so that the family and friends could pick from there. And I became very much friends with one of their moms. She had the vision, that she had this super intelligent, tech-savvy child with very few opportunities for him to grow and follow his passion, because a lot of focus is on playing football or, other type of sporting activities, which he wasn't into. And she had the vision of starting the Step into Tech. She asked me to co-found that with her and help her, and we started working on that. And shortly after, I actually end up leaving and coming back to Basel. So I can't really take much credit for it, but I did my little bit to help who were interested in coming to tech and getting them to understand what tech is, because a lot of kids, including an amazing mentee that I had at university, think technology is games. And they want to do game development, and they think all that is. Our mission was to expose them to the fun side of tech, but also to the serious side of tech, and bringing people from all different types of life, all different personalities and places to be the role models for these children. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy, black or white or whatever you may be. If your passion is tech, you can use it. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a programmer. There are so many roles in tech. There are so many avenues. And even if you have multiple passions, tech allows you to merge them all together. And that's the beauty and uniqueness of the tech. And the idea was to inspire these children to be all they could be.
Is it still ongoing?
It is still ongoing. I have to say, slap hand. I have been disconnected because this is happening in UK. That is still going on to my knowledge, but I've really lost touch. But I really think it's an amazing thing, and I admire them for doing it.
I was a big fan of Hour of Code. You essentially bring anyone who is interested in tech and you teach them basic programming through actually gamification, where you show them if you do these commands, and then you start with more complex things like putting if conditions within if conditions, and then you actually create an entire movement processing of your figure in the game. I found it really awesome. I was like, oh, this is so great.
It is, and it's really, coding is a good beginning into tech, but people usually think tech is coding, or software technology is just coding. But it's a lot more than that, and that's sort of been my mission. To me, coding is the evil necessity. You have to code in order to tell the hardware what to do. This is our form of communication at the moment. But there is so much more into tech. And this is what I wanted to inject. So this was the angle I came in with stepintotech.org.
This is a great bridge towards your idea of SAM.
It's an enterprise software development tool. Or it will be. It's my vision of it.
Ah, great. Can you talk more about it? Or is it all corporate secret?
No, it's not secret. This is part of the public speaking that I do. It's on SAM. SAM is basically a collection of my life experiences in the technology world. What I've learned that really works well, what doesn't work well, and what is total waste of time. When I stepped away from technology and went and did my university course, my mission became to change everything. So I'm brought up, if you don't like something, don't just complain about it, change it. And this is what I'm doing with SAM, is I intend to change the software technology industry, because I believe the way we're approaching things, it's outdated. Software technology hasn't changed since conception. We still write code, compile it, stick it on a machine. And yes, we do a whole lot of other work, which is documentation and, writing hundreds of different things. Last big project I did, we had more than 230 documents that were several hundred pages each to build a software. But the reality is that has nothing to do with the software. You do that in order to make your brain work, so that when you write the code, hopefully you do it the right way. But there is nothing other than human mind that connects the two. And to me, that's wrong. That's a disconnect. And there are many, many tools that have been developed, but they've all been developed with the focus of the current approach to technology, which to me, they act like band-aids. And the only way I see that we can really leverage the enormous progress we have made in technology, primarily through hardware technology, is to go back to basic and rethink and rebuild the whole thing from scratch based on what we physically have and know today, rather than creating more band-aids of different shape, size, and form and challenging the whole process. And this is what I've done with SAM. So SAM is going to be a business-centric software methodology that encompasses the entire life cycle of a software product within a single tool. So it's not just a guide you read and then follow the bits you like or understand and ignore the rest. It actually mentors and guides you and helps you go through that. And to me, the strength of SAM comes from using the strengths of us humans, which is our creativity, our ingenious way of thinking, together with the strength of computers, which are very good at detailed, repetitive, accurate work. And if we allow each of us to focus on what we're good at, we can create a formidable team of going forward. And that's what the vision of SAM is. Once I started talking about it and getting the blank look and cross-eyed expression from people, I realized that not everybody was on the same wavelength. And instead of trying to convince them of my idea, I decided, well, maybe I should just start talking about it and letting them arrive at their own conclusion. So this is when I joined Toastmasters, learned to do public speaking, and then I started public speaking about why I believe that software technology needs help. Everybody wants to use it. I actually started looking at grants to build my idea. There's billions out there for technology. But when you actually look at it, they fall in two categories. Either it's for hardware technology or it's for using software technology to build other things like biotech, solar tech, whatever tech. But there is nothing, absolutely nothing, for building software technology itself. It's not recognized by anybody that there is a need there. And that's what I wanted to create awareness. And spreading the word, people start having conversations with one another. And eventually a right person would hear it and say, maybe she's onto something. Let's talk. And then I can find the partners I need on this new venture.
I find it fascinating because I was already, as I told you before, I was part of projects where we had that exact problem, that we had a knowledge transfer to begin with. B, we had to work with aged technology which had no purpose, and it was just a hell and a nightmare. And having something like a SAM which would actually preserve the knowledge, and you could actually start and deliver and develop and then again execute on of the entire life cycle of a software. That would be actually great.
Yes, and I think the biggest strength of SAM comes that it will create a single visual source of truth for the entire enterprise. So at the moment, if you think of enterprise, any enterprise, they have, depending on the size of them, they have from several hundred to several thousand systems. There are many replications because they're old ones and versus the new ones, and nobody ever gets rid of the old ones because they always have a piece of knowledge that you couldn't extract fully. And then the whole company, the whole enterprise knowledge is fragmented across all these systems. There is actually no single place you can go and see or experience the entire thing. And because of that, with all the due diligence, with all the regulatory influence that's been put in and standardization, within each company, there are literally hundreds of different standards. There is hundreds of different ways of doing things. There is hundreds of different languages, operating system, just multiplications. And to me, that's a failure on us, the software technology people or the technology people as a whole, that this has happened. And to me, an enterprise should have their single source of truth. With SAM, I like to make that a visual single source of truth because as humans, we are visual creatures. We are amazing at pattern recognition. That's why when you go on a website, it asks you read that silly blurred text or number because to us, it's like, why is it doing that? Like, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense because a computer can't do that. Or, which pictures have traffic lights in it, or which picture has bridges in it. Even a 2-year-old can tell a difference. Or, what's the difference between an apple and an earth? A 2-year-old can tell you which is which, but a computer will have a struggle identifying that. And that comes with our strength, which we take it for granted. And by leveraging that, then we can focus on finding problem patterns and coming up with creative solutions rather than be buried in details that we're not good at handling.
Could you bring me through a day of working, for example, with Sam? Where would it start? Where would it end? And how would be just like a daily life cycle of working with Sam for a normal user?
Well, idea of Sam, I have a couple of videos on my website, but the idea of Sam is that you will begin with the business or the core of what you're trying to build. So to me, a lot of the time, we, the technology people, get super excited and we build coolest things from, technology world, and we forget to ask the customer what it is they actually want. And it's like a buy product. It's like, oh, wait a minute, we have this product. Try and see how you can use it. To me, you start with what it is you want. So let's draw a picture. Just draw a process flow, a flow chart, whatever terminology you're familiar with. Let's draw a picture of how this thing we're going to build for you is going to be used and how you need to experience it. So you start with basic of what it is you're doing, how is it you're doing it, and what do you expect to see. And by capturing that, then you capture the use of it, the usability or the user front end experience of it. Then that same flow, that same presentation can then be used by the software technology team to further granular detail of design. How does that look? And what data would I need to design to hold that? So it goes to your database design or data design. It goes to your operational, functional design. And eventually, once you've done all that, you say, well, did I capture everything? Did I put the logic against everything the customer asked for? And the tool can say, well, no, actually, you never did this part. There's no connection here. Or this bit has a hole in it. So you can actually visually see where you've expanded what was requested versus you have gaps. And by going through that and exercising that, then you can make sure you have complete coverage. If there is a question comes up, maybe you design and say, wait a minute, I don't know what to do here. Maybe there's a hole in the requirement. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I want to be able to print this as well as just see it on the screen, so there is another feature that needs to be added. And this allows, by going through this repetitive definition, design, and verification, you can make sure that you have a complete cycle. Finally, when you're done, you go to architecture. Now we've done this. What hardware does this need to go to? Because the design is irrelevant to where it needs to go to. Only the code, the executable code, is dependent on the hardware, not the design. So once you've done that, you can then say, okay, this is the architecture I want to have. These are the hardwares. Press a button, and then it would create the executable form of that design for the targeted hardware. You might use it and think, I thought this would be a good one, but it's really not working now that I experience it. I want to go from this hardware platform to another one. Let's, go from Microsoft to HP Alpha system and see how that works. Now you don't need to build the whole thing from scratch. You just select, press another button, and instantly have your complete solution on a new hardware. Going forward, because everything you've done is within one tool and it has traceability as you've done it, down the road, you say, you know what? I was thinking it would be cool to add these new functions to the mixed. Then you don't need to start everything from scratch. You can say, okay, I'm going to add this. And then the system says, this is the impact of these code that has to be rebuilt, this evaluation that needs to be done. And it can actually trace back. This is the impact. This is the database part needs to change. These are the code. This code needs to be generated. This code is currently on these hardware devices. You need to rebuild and deliver executable on this. So now you have the complete map. And you don't need to rebuild everything from scratch, only implement the changes that you want to change. And in 100 years' time, somebody comes and say, I wonder that crazy Sally, what she was thinking when she built this. The whole logic is there, is in a human readable form, not in a computer code that's outdated and aged that they have to decipher, but in a logical flow that a human mind can follow the pattern and understand. That to me is the power of SAM.
Sounds amazing.
Thank you.
How far are you in catching up with the conceptual part and bringing it live?
SAM is super solid in my brain. The vision is very clear. SAM is only the first step of a multi-step vision. The idea started from somewhere completely different, addressing the legacy systems that are building in our basements. And then I realized before I could that I needed to go back and have a foundation, which is SAM. But then when I started talking about it, I realized that the rest of the world that I have come across so far are not there conceptually. They're not quite thought about it. They're not understanding me. So I changed tactics and I started talking about it so that I could trigger people to start thinking about it, applying it to their everyday life. You don't have to be a technology person to appreciate it. When your emergency services don't work, you can't make emergency call when somebody's life depends on it. When the bank system crashes, you don't have access to your funds to live off. When the telephone network crashes, you can't make phone calls. Planes crash out of the sky, people die. And this is everyday people. These are not technology people necessarily, although they could be. These are everyday people who get impacted by technological shortcomings. And sadly, I find failures become acceptable norm. Oh yeah, well, that's the software. Oh yeah, that's another technology glitch. And to me, it shouldn't be acceptable. We now have the ability to address it, and we should do that. Now I'm talking about it so I can find the right partners. I want to create a quorum of partners to build this. I'm not looking for individual VCs to give me the cash because it's an idea and it doesn't really qualify. And it's a big idea. It's not like, let's get rich quick soon. I'm looking for quorum. So one leg of it would be myself. Another leg would be a university. As good as I may be, or I think I am, I am past. I'm history, I am experience, but I'm trying to build something for the future. And to me, that's crucial to involve the future generation into that. They're the ones who have a fresh thinking. The judgment's not clouded by how things are necessarily. And they're open-minded and creative. And they're not jaded by how things are and how you can't change things. But also, this is going to be, I see it as a legacy to leave behind because I'm not going to live forever. And by empowering the future generation, they're the ones who can take it beyond me. And that's why I want a university to be involved, to bring the young blood and the learning and a different way of thinking. I'm trying to change the whole industry. And I think it's empowering to have an academic body involved. And the other two would be my intended clients. Like I said, we in the technology sector, we forget. We build something we're excited. And as excited I am about SAM, and I think it's the best thing since sliced bread, it's just my vision. And before I can build that, I really want the everyday people who are going to use it, my end clients, be part of this journey to make sure what we deliver, it really meets their needs. It is what they also vision. And I don't want them to be of the same sector. I want them to be from two completely different sectors. So SAM doesn't become a sector-specific entity. If anybody is on there who's listening, who wants to come and partner up and build this quorum or knows somebody who may be interested, please contact me. I'd love to hear from you.
Just a short switch towards entrepreneurship, because that's also like underlying topic of our podcast. Although I really find Sam fascinating, I would love to talk to you about it for hours. Sally, from your experience, what did it be that you were looking always up to in other entrepreneurs, that you found that was the characteristics which you thought brought those people to success?
I think it's three things. First and foremost, it has to be a passion about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Passion has to be at the core of you and your team. This is the excelsior that takes you beyond when everybody tells you, you're crazy. This is when things are hard and it is a rough road, and it's going to keep you going because you truly believe and understand this. And this passion, when I'm talking about passion, is not about, hey, let's get rich quick passion, but truly what I believe in what I'm doing. And I would do it despite the fact that I know it's going to be a hard, long road. And I'd rather, miss out on this fun thing so I can focus and deliver my passion. Then you need to surround yourself with people that challenge you and compliment you. Not that they give you a high five and say, hey, well done, we're doing great, let's go, pat on the back, although that is nice. But people who intellectually challenge you, and people who think differently to you do. Because when you're surrounded by people who have different strengths than you and think differently to you, then by challenging your idea and your concept, you're constantly improving it. And as you're improving, that goes to the third part, which is adaptability and growth. You keep improving and you adapt and you learn and you grow, and this is when you have the best result. You can never stay put. The world around us is changing, and we need to change and grow with it. And if you have the passion, you have the collaboration of the right people who complement you, and then you have the adaptability to absorb change and implement it and move forward as you're going, as a continuous process. To me, that's a recipe for success.
I'm so encouraged now. Also for other entrepreneurs listening, I think it's really important to hear. It's not only about the people who give you high fives, but actually challenge you. And only through the challenge, you continuously learn. And only with continuous learning, you adapt in your situations, you pivot your idea towards the successful path. You're not stuck within something that you have in your head only, and through the confirmation of people, you're just stuck in that situation. That's a bad way to go.
It's not always nice to hear people who say, oh, I don't think your idea is good because, I always defend my idea because I believe in it. But I always sit and think through why they said that, and I put myself in their shoes and I try to look at it from their point of view. And there's always something to be learned from that statement, either by improving my messaging. Maybe my messaging wasn't clear, by highlighting something that I have, but I didn't think of bringing it up, or by changing my vision to encompass what they're seeing. And I think that's a really powerful part for anybody, whatever business they do.
Now, Sally, out of my own interest, what would be the ideal team you would look forward to have on your team? I
am a big believer in diversity and equality. And unlike some people that look at equality as equality in numbers, 50% men, 50% women, or 50% black and 50% white, or whatever the numbers they're looking at, I believe equality comes from blindness and focus. You have to be blind to anything that's irrelevant to the characteristics that you're looking for, and focus on what is the core values and core expertise that you need to have in a team. Only by doing that, you can surround yourself with the best team. And the best team comes from having diversity of skill sets and, ways of thinking and opinions, and allowing each of them to grow, flourish, and contribute in their own way. This is a big thing. I'm very much against the concept that many have that equality comes from numbers. Because to me, you lose at many layers. You lose by not having the best that you could have had, and by being prejudiced towards the ones that you could have had. And two wrongs don't make a right in my book.
I heard about this happening on, for example, US campuses of universities, where the score in order to enter the university is different depending on which minority you come from. So Asians have it the hardest right now.
As a woman in tech world, for a long time, I was always a minority. Coming from non-Anglo-Saxon background, living in UK and US, I was considered a minority. And so I was always in that the space. I was told to my face I couldn't earn the same as the guys who reported to me because I was a female, and I could get pregnant and have to leave. And my God, I couldn't possibly be considered at the same level as a guy. I was told I've got a job because I was the only skirt that applied. I had been told that I didn't get to the next level for a job because I was a female and they didn't think I was appropriate. To me, I always took offense at the ones I couldn't find. So when I was told I got a job because I was the only female, I took offense to that because what could I do? I turned them down. Obviously, I wouldn't work for them because I wanted to be the best candidate, not the only one in skirt. But the ones I could fight, when I was told I couldn't go to the next level of interviews because I was female and they didn't think a female was suitable, I said to them, I will prove to you I'm the best man for the job. And I did. And they did offer me the job. And then I turned them down and told them that I wouldn't work for somebody who was already sexist towards me. But I wanted to prove to them they have now lost their best candidate, and walked away. And to me, that was a lesson for me, and it was a lesson for them. Hopefully it was a lesson for them. But to me, if I'm going to be prejudiced towards young guys today, because I want to prefer, higher women, because I was prejudiced towards, then I haven't learned anything. I'm just creating a new generation that will experience different type of prejudice. I will look at the candidates, regardless of whether they're man or woman, black or white, Muslim, Jew, Christian, whatever they may be. I look at their skill sets, what they can bring to the team, their personality and mindset, and I choose the best that are on the list of candidates. And to me, it's a win for me, and it's a win for them.
Every person in a leadership position should hear your words right now. Sally, unfortunately, our podcast also has a time limit, but if you wouldn't mind sharing your contacts where people can connect with you, whether social media or professional media whatsoever, where people can reach out to you.
Sure. Best way is LinkedIn. I keep most of my contacts there. So Sally M. Solaymantash. You can go on my website, smarterapproach.ch. You can also contact me through there, and I would be more than happy to hear from anybody, to give back in any way I can.
And with that, thank you for listening. If you have any more questions, if you would like to reach out to Sally and you didn't notice the website or her LinkedIn profile, reach out to us. We are on Facebook, HelpandTrade, and also currently we now engaging also on Twitter. HelpandTrade1 is our profile. And also, of course, go on our website, HelpandTrade.com, or our application, which is there for your entrepreneurs, HelpandTrade.com. Again. And with that, thank you very much for listening and stay tuned. And Sally, thank you again for coming over, sharing your experience, all your knowledge, presenting Sam. It's really great.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.